Hello everyone, it's Kevin, and I gotta say, Mega Man on the NES is one of the most consistent series of all time. Mega Man 2 is legendary, 3 is extremely popular, and even the weaker entries are pretty solid. And then we have Mega Man 4, the game that introduced the Mega Buster Charge Shot. A mechanic so important that it became a permanent part of the series. So after building upon Mega Man 2 and 3, this should be one of the best Mega Man games on the NES, right? Honestly, I think it's the mid-tier entry out of the entire lineup. Whoa. Put your pitchforks down and hear me out. I know it's a hot take and it was a tough sentence for me to say, but it's not a slight against it, as the NES Mega Man games were all great. Even the lowest ranked NES Mega Man is still better than a lot of the NES games out there. This game is not bad, frustrating, or disappointing. I like it actually. It plays great, looks good, and the music is top tier, which is a calling card for this series. But in my opinion, it never reaches the highs of the top Mega Man games, which makes this one interesting, because it's doing a lot right, but somehow it still feels like it's missing something. And right now I can't put my finger on it. So today, let's take a look at Mega Man 4, the game that gave the series a huge upgrade. Mega Man 4 was released in 1991, and at this point Capcom had the formula completely figured out. Every game had 8 Robot Masters that you could tackle in your preferred order. You experiment and you learn the weaknesses of each boss, and once you beat that Robot Master you get to collect their weapon. Eventually you get to the hidden levels where you get to face more challenges and get tested on everything that you learned thus far. This game still has the same structure, and it still works. But this time this game tries to at least change it up a bit. Instead of immediately going back to Dr. Wily again, we get introduced to Dr. Cossack. It's a small change, but it gives the game a little bit of mystery at first. It is interesting that Wily isn't involved in this game, right? And as I had mentioned earlier, the newest addition to this game is the Mega Buster Charge Shot. You hold the button, build energy, and release a stronger blast. It's such a simple idea, but it had a huge impact on the series. It gives Mega Man more power, slightly changes the pacing, and makes combat feel a little more strategic. And honestly, I like it, it's a great addition. But does it push Mega Man 4 into top tier category? The core gameplay still feels very good. Just like before, the controls are tight, jumping feels precise, and the movement is responsive. They even tightened up the slide. I found that it was more satisfying than in Mega Man 3. Exactly what you want from a Mega Man game. The addition of the Mega Buster allowed you to be able to do more damage to enemies without relying completely on special weapons, and it gives you flexibility when approaching enemies and bosses. It created a small tweak to how we played the game. I always found that since I played this game as a kid, that I always pre-charged before going into the next screen. But here's the thing, even though I've said all these nice things and the Mega Buster is a major feature, the level design in this game is mostly just solid. Not amazing, not weak, just solid. There aren't many moments where I think to myself and say, wow, this stage is incredible. In fact, the stages themselves aren't incredibly memorable. The levels are very balanced though, without fake outs and cheap deaths. Most of the time I'm just thinking, yeah, this is typical Mega Man, it's a series I love. And that kind of sums up the whole experience for me. Mega Man 4 rarely does anything wrong, but it also rarely does anything above and beyond. To me, it feels like the team put a lot more love and passion into the previous 2 titles. It's kind of like some series out there today that churn out the same game every year after having a breakthrough hit, although not as extreme as those. Every aspect just consistently lands at the 7 out of 10 range, which is still good, especially for an NES game, but when you're part of a series this strong, good doesn't stand out. One oddity about this game is that the endgame seems to be easier than the others from memory. Actually, now that I think about it, this game isn't really tough, and it loves to hand out items, especially 1-ups. The Robot Masters are decent overall. Pharaoh Man is cool and one of my favorite designs in the 8-bit series. Skullman is also very cool. And then we have Toadman, who might have one of the least threatening names in the entire series. He is also a complete pushover. Other than them, it's kinda strange, like, I do like them, but I can't remember them after I play the game. Can you remember the Robot Masters in this game without looking at the list? I will say that Ringman is a beast though. He is tough to kill with just the Mega Buster. What is this guy's actual profession though, and why does he have such high combat proficiency? Mega Man has always had that weird mix of cool and goofy, and this game definitely continues that tradition. The boss fights themselves are mostly enjoyable, but again, not many of them really stand out as all-time classics. Same goes for the weapons. Some are useful, some are very situational, and some feel like they exist mostly because the game needs 8 boss weapons. Nothing really feels broken though, and it's a very consistent set, just not one of the strongest overall. But I will say, I might not have been using the weapons optimally though, as I always hoard my energy in these games after getting soft-locked in Mega Man 2. There are rush items again in this one, and they're all good except for Rush Marine, as it only has utility in one level it seemed. There are also 2 hidden items in the game, one being kind of obvious and the other being in a very unexpected spot, at the bottom of a pit. Crazy, I know. Mega Man 4 does try to add a little more story than the earlier games, although adding a bit to an already low amount isn't adding much. But it's okay. Mega Man games don't need epic storylines, just like Mario. But the effort is noticeable. Instead of just immediately blaming Dr. Wily again in this game, the game introduces Dr. Cossack as the main villain. It gives the game a slightly different tone at first and makes things feel a little less predictable. It also helps this game feel a little more unique, even though things might eventually start feeling very familiar again if you know what I mean. Still, I appreciate it, and it tripped me out as a kid. It adds just enough personality to separate it from the earlier entries. I do miss Mega Man being in the middle of the Robot Master screen though, instead of the word Dr. C. Visually, Mega Man 4 looks as good as ever. The sprites are detailed, the stages are colorful, and everything is easy to read. I really love the bigger bosses and sub-bosses. It always looked amazing in these games. They also did some cutscenes in the game, and that was a pleasant addition. Capcom at this point had a lot of experience with the NES, and it shows. There is, however, some slowdown and flickering, which is typical with these games, but otherwise the game is very polished. Something that goes without saying though is that the soundtrack is solid overall. There are definitely some good tracks here, but compared to the absolute best Mega Man soundtracks on the NES, this one doesn't quite reach that level for me. Pharaoh Man stage is a standout though, along with some of the endgame levels. It's good music, it's just not top tier. And again, that's kind of the theme of Mega Man 4, isn't it? I forgot to mention that Dr. Wily is behind all of it. Sorry for the spoilers. So, overall, I do like Mega Man 4. The controls are great, the Mega Buster was a huge addition and a mainstay for the series, the gameplay is polished, and the formula still works. But, when I compare it to the strongest Mega Man games on the NES, this one sits pretty comfortably in the middle. It doesn't have many standout stages, it doesn't have as many unforgettable moments, and it doesn't quite separate itself enough from the rest of the series. It's a very consistent experience though, and that is worth something. Now I'm gonna ask you, where do you rank Mega Man 4 in the NES lineup? Higher than mid, or right around the middle, just like me? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoy retro reviews like this, consider subscribing and joining the Ctrl+Alt army. You know, Mega Man 4 may not be top tier, but at least the series charged forward with more entries from here. And that's a wrap. It is time to reboot. I will see you on the other side.